We are ready to begin our next session, and this is truly one of my favorite sessions of TravelAbility. This is where we get to talk about both what's gone terribly wrong and what's gone terribly right. So, with that, I'm going to kick us off because I wanted to open it up and embarrass myself so that other people are willing to tell their embarrassing stories. As a wheelchair user, it can be very, very difficult. You know, you tend to forget before you have a disability that, you know, when your lower half doesn't work right, that includes certain bodily functions. And that's been one of the biggest shifts for me, is having to deal with that. And about, I guess it was last year and a half ago, we were going through the Vancouver airport and I had to go. And I went to 3 restrooms, and every single one of them had somebody changing in the accessible stall. Oh. I finally made it to the last one, and it was just too late. Thankfully, there was a hotel in the airport, a beautiful, beautiful Fairmont hotel, and they allowed me to come in, take a shower, get cleaned up, gave us water. I still get teary thinking about it, because that was one of the most humiliating moments of my life, to lose my bladder. And it's taken a long time for me to realize it's okay. That doesn't define my character. It doesn't have any impact on that. And to be treated with such compassion by the staff at that hotel, for them to give me a room, to let me clean up, unpack my suitcase and get something else to wear, was just one of the most beautiful demonstrations of humanity. And it just made me feel so good. So when I book clients with disabilities in Vancouver, I choose that hotel for them because I know they're going to get the level of care that they need, that they're going to have a compassionate front desk working with them. And now that's not so much a negative memory, but an empowering one, and one that I can look back on and remember, this is how we change the industry. This is how we make the changes. When we have those kinds of things happen, then we have the opportunity to teach others to have humanity and compassion and empathy. And it helps us all to do better going forward. So with that embarrassing story, hopefully you guys have some funnier ones than me. But let's get going. Hi. Please introduce yourself, and again, let's give a brief visual description, who you are, what you're wearing, tell us about your shoes, all the good stuff, and then let's hear your most embarrassing stories. No, I mean your stories about lack of accessibility, not embarrassing. Sorry, my fault.
They kind of go hand in hand to an extent.
Some days, they really do.
My name is Jessica Jordan Ping. I am a content creator. Today I am wearing a blue mini skirt with a black and white patterned cropped blazer. So,
and for those who can't see, you have a limb difference.
I do have 2 limb differences, actually. So yes, other people with disabilities here, but because you can see mine, you are being discriminatory. This is not okay. And they fought against giving us a refund. We did eventually get one, but it was a complete waste of time. A good 5 hours out of our honeymoon trip was tainted by that experience.
Yeah, we experienced in Alaska, where we had the conversations ahead of time with them to go on an ATV ride, and we got there and they said, oh, never mind, you can sit in the glorified golf cart and watch all the ATVers in front of you. I have great upper body strength and ride horses and everything else, and they wouldn't let me make that decision about my ability.
Honestly, it comes back down to the freedom of your choice and your own autonomy in your own body, and it's very frustrating.
Absolutely. We should be able to make informed decisions on our ability just like anybody else.
And it should also be communicated. I think this is something that I keep harping back on, and I know I've had individual conversations with some of you about it as well. If you're not going to be accessible, just be honest about it. Just be transparent about it. Make space on your website, on your social media page, whatever it may be, to talk about your level of accessibility and do it as honestly and transparently as possible, because the worst thing is if you say that you're accessible and then you're not.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's huge. It all comes down to the information and then being willing to explore what can we do. So, all right, let's move on. Please introduce yourself, describe yourself, and talk about your worst experience.
Hello, I'm Craig Radford. I'm the CEO and co-founder of 360 Direct Video, and I'm tall, 6'4". I'm wearing a dark sweater over a button-up shirt. I have big eyebrows, a little overweight. LOL. Okay, so one of the worst experiences for me is my son had just won the state university champion for drama, and I booked a trip to fly to New York with him. We arrived in New York, and we got to the hotel. We're at the front desk, and the person in front of me, they're talking with the front desk person, and they're telling this person everything, the benefits. Oh, there's a concierge lounge on this floor. There's pool hours on this over here. Finally, it switched over to me. I go up to the front desk, and they had no idea I was deaf. It wasn't visible. The minute I gave the signal, I can't hear, it's a deer in the headlights look, right? They're just shocked. It's just immediately like, oh no, hold on. And they go, and they get a manager. The manager looks around the corner. Okay, the manager comes out. Very exaggerated. Hi, my mom's blind. Okay, I don't give a damn. I'm just trying to check into the hotel. Sounds great to know. And then the minute they just give my key. They get my key ready, and that's what they hand me. Okay. Now, I know a lot about the hotel. I'm an ambassador at this hotel. I travel a lot. And I wanted to know, where's the concierge lounge? What are the hours? All I'm given is a key. And I had to figure it out. It was very awkward. And so check in, fine. Then I have to figure out myself. It's just a lot of extra effort, right? It's just always extra effort that's unnecessary. So then we're going to a play. We arrived to watch a play for my son. And I arrive, get up to the front, say that I'm deaf. Oh, hold on. We're going to take care of you. Here's a paper script. Okay, what am I doing with this? Thank you for the script. I'm going to sit in a play for hours, and I'm going to read the paper script. I mean, that is already frustrating from the check-in at the hotel experience, now just trying to see a show. And that's just one example of a story. I have many. I'm sure you guys would just laugh all day. The world is just full of dumb hearing people. I'm really sorry to tell you that.
Well, it's also full of dumb walking people and dumb seeing people. Yeah, it really is. I think it just goes to our lived experience. We don't know what we don't know, and we don't know how to engage, and that's why these conversations are just so critical. All right, next up.
Hi everyone, I'm Sassy. I am 4'9", so I'm super short. I have bright red hair. I am wearing a pink peplum top and a black and white skirt with black tights and some cute little sneaker trainers that are white and mint green, I think. Oh, the joys of being blind, I can't remember what colour they are.
Nailed it.
Pardon?
Nailed it.
Ah, yes. And I have bright orange nails as well. That's something that people have been complimenting me on for the last few days, so I appreciate that. So one of my, I guess, I have loads of little ones, but one of my most negative experiences I can recently think of is where I was coming into the US, and I'm sorry US, because we're here, and I love you guys, but I was coming in here, and I have passenger assistance or meet and greet, it's called different things in the USA and the UK, and I do have mobility issues. That's one of my other invisible disabilities, so we did request a wheelchair for me, but as a blind traveler, generally, my biggest issue is that people turn up to the plane and they're like, we've got you a wheelchair. And I'm saying, okay, but I'm blind, my legs work. As someone with an invisible disability, they don't know that my legs don't work properly, but that's not the point. So I always have to fight to explain most of the time that I don't want a wheelchair. Whereas this time, I got in it quite happily. My problem is is that people then put me in the chair and then don't communicate with me. So I don't know where I'm going, I don't know what's happening, and I get to, border control, and then they say, oh, we need your boarding card. And for some reason, I thought I'd left it on the plane. So I was searching and searching and searching. Eventually, I found it. And I said, why do you need it? And he says, because we need it. Okay, great. And then there was a disabled lady next to me who almost missed the flight because on the Heathrow side in the UK, they almost left her behind. Ooh. So that's her story, but I also had to tell the staff that that was due to happen. They were going to leave without her. So she was the one that then informed me. They needed to find out my information to check that I'd actually booked wheelchair assistance. And that's really interesting to me because most of the time I'm forced into a wheelchair without my own permission, and then I'm told here that they need to check that I've even requested that. So we then move on to the next part where somebody else took over. Of course, generally, as a rule, they do say hello, and they're not so quiet that they're ignorant, but we get to the train station, and again in the UK, I am so used to having passenger assistance. So they'll help me get my ticket, they'll kind of throw me on the train, tell the people at the other end, and then somebody will get me off, and then help me exit that platform and that train station, just so it takes the mental strain off of me. So I know that doesn't really happen here in the US. So I got on, I was waiting for the train in the wheelchair with my really heavy luggage, and the lady says, the train's coming in 10 minutes, I've got to go now. And I said, okay, but there's no audio announcements, there's no other member of staff here, are you able to help me? And she said, well, no, because I've got to go now. And so I had to then basically ask/argue with her to ask for the assistance, for the right to be able to get on this train. And then the train pulled in, I think a few minutes earlier than it should have, or at least that's what I'm assuming by the time that she'd walked away and come back. The train turned up, and I obviously realised, and she said, the train's here. So I was getting out of my wheelchair. I went to go and try and get my luggage because I knew it was underneath me. And she grabbed my arm and kind of was pulling me away. And I said, where's my luggage? And my luggage was very heavy. And then I hear her dragging it behind me. And then thankfully, the train has level access. But she never told me that I was by the door. So if I was in the UK where the gaps are huge, I would have fallen down that gap, because I did not know I was walking towards the train doors. And then she pulled my very heavy backpack behind her and then used it to prop open the door so she could push me into the carriage to tell me there was a seat there. And I find that really, really distressing as a blind woman, because if I'm just given verbal direction and communication, then I can do a lot of these things on my own. But the way that I felt on Monday made me feel like a second-class citizen, and it just really, really sucked. So, sorry.
Hi, everyone. I'm Talia Salem. I am Senior Manager of Editorial Strategy for Marriott Bonvoy Traveler, which is an online magazine for Marriott. So I work on the content and storytelling side. So these stories are really helpful to hear. I have medium-length brown hair. I'm also a little curvy. I have a black jumpsuit on with red boots and medium tan skin. My reason for being here is I'm a caregiver for a daughter with autism who's 4.5, and also my husband is a disabled veteran who has PTSD and some hearing loss and some other issues, and I also have a baby. I have a lot of different travel experiences, I would say, but the one also that I would call on is probably an airport travel experience, which was really traumatizing to my daughter. We were flying to Jordan for a family reunion, and of course, 24-hour flight with anyone is a hard, long flight, so we did what we thought was best. We prepared her with all these videos, and we explained the process, and we got her TSA cares, and we tried to do all these things to help prepare her. And fortunately, a few years ago at this conference, I actually learned about the disability lanyard, and we also had her wear one on the flight. And she's just this adorable little girl, also with an invisible disability, so no one would know. And both at the U.S. security checkpoint and at the German checkpoint, they ripped her comfort toys out of her hand because they needed to screen a 2-inch pink owl for some sort of, I don't know what they were looking for, but it was literally the smallest little toy. And we were in Jordan for 3 weeks, and every day for 3 weeks, if anyone got close to her or tried to take this away, she would cry. And she was just so traumatized for I would tell you like 6 months to a year about this little toy. And she was so little. She did really great on the trip. But as her mom, I felt like I failed her in that experience, and it happens all the time. And we did, all the right things, of course. And she did have a wonderful trip, and I don't regret taking her on that long trip and to meet all our family overseas. And we also taught them a lot about autism, which was great. But there are just some things you just don't know until you go through it. And of course, I'm the sassy one, so I'm kind of like yelling at the German security people, and my husband, the military one, is like, "You shouldn't do that. We're in Germany." And I was like, "But they made my baby cry." And sometimes these are cultural things. I mean, we had the lanyard. We tried to explain the autism. We told them that this is a comfort toy, and she really needs this for regulation, and they just don't really understand that because she's just, again, this adorable little girl. They think she's misbehaving. They think we're being bad parents. So yeah, that wasn't the best, but I think as a caregiver, you kind of learn over time. Like we've learned a lot since then. That was 1.5 years ago, and we keep learning that we have to kind of manage expectations, but also that she visualizes things very specifically, and so we just have to kind of keep that in mind to be more flexible and learn. And then with my husband as well, he's kind of learning how to deal with the different noises and things like that as we travel. But I am, of course, able-bodied, and I hope I'm not one of those stupid people, but I hope this conference helps me be less stupid, both personally and professionally.
Thank you for sharing all of these stories. It takes a lot of courage for us to get up here and to share these vulnerable moments with you. So when we're finished, please be sure to smile at us, to say thank you for sharing your stories. This is an emotional thing for us to get up here and share these hard stories. I have one more hard story I want to share with you before we move on to the fun part. But I want to share about my experience flying here as well and the problems I had with TSA. So everybody knows how TSA works, right? You go through, if you can walk, you get to go through, hold your arms up, move on with life. If you are disabled, you get a full body pat down if you are a wheelchair user. If you cannot stand and walk through the machine, you get a full body pat down. Thankfully, there's this lovely thing called TSA PreCheck. Absolutely your best friend if you're a wheelchair user, if you don't like those free massages. They swipe your hands, they swipe your chair and test those for explosives, and then they pat down your cushion to make sure you're not hiding anything. And that's it. So I arrived at the airport, plenty of time, start going through, and it takes quite a while for them to ever bring somebody. So I was a little frustrated at the length of time I had to wait. And I finally go through, and the woman starts putting on her gloves, and she doesn't have anything in her hands, and she starts saying that she's about to do my screening. I said, well, it's hand swipe, chair swipe. And she goes, I know how to do my job. And then she proceeds to tell me that she's going to pat me down. I said, no, I have PreCheck. And she goes, well, I still need to pat you down. And I said, I need you to go get a supervisor because that's not the policy. And this woman started treating me as though I was being combative. I was not combative. I was insisting that they follow the rules. I was insisting that they followed protocol. And she continued. At one point, she actually did say to me, so you just want to tell me how to do my job? And I looked back at her and I said, I actually do when your job affects my rights and my body, and you're doing your job wrong, yes, I am going to correct you because it matters for me and every single individual who comes behind me. And here's the funny part. I know going into the airport, especially from home, one of my medications, something in our house, I don't know what it is, sets off the alarms. We've tried everything, and I still set off the alarms, mostly when I'm leaving my house. So I know that I'm probably getting a pat down anyway. But this woman insisted that this was the protocol for PreCheck. And I, no, this is not the protocol. So she got the supervisor. He said, well, that's the protocol. And I said, can I show you where it says? And he goes, well, if you want to leave and go get it on your phone and then come back. So, well, I don't know how you're going to look at my phone because I'm still going to have to put it back through because he didn't want to let me touch my phone. I said, well, then can you please show me in the protocols where that is? Well, we can't show you our book. We can't show you the protocols. Public entity. Not showing me what the actual rules are. I said, well, okay, well, then I'm just going to have to trust you. I want you to go read the rule book, and I want you to go verify that you are following the protocol for TSA PreCheck for a non-ambulatory wheelchair user. It took him about 15, 20 minutes, and the whole time the woman's being really snippy with me, treating me like I'm a problem. And finally he comes back, kind of whispers in her ear and says, just do it. She starts doing the things. Neither one of them looked at me. Neither one of them said anything to me. And so finally I look at her and I said, can we talk about what just happened? And she goes, what? And I said, well, what did the book say? And she said something else. I said, and finally she goes, do you want me to tell you that you were right? And I said, actually, I do. I really, really do. I want you to tell me that I was right because I want to make sure that this doesn't happen again. This isn't about me. This is about every single one of us. And I am fighting for our rights to be able to get through this in the least invasive possible way. And she kind of looked taken aback, and she said, you were right. And then she went and put the thing in the computer, and she turned around and I had my arms up. I said, I'm ready for my pat down. I did set off the alarms. I missed pre-boarding of my flight because to me it was worth it to make sure they were following the proper protocol so that next time it's easier. So let's move on to the fun stories. Let's hear about your favorite experience. What have you experienced where it was just overwhelmingly one of those memories that you just think about and it puts a smile on your face? So go ahead.
I have a very weird answer to this question.
I like the weird answers.
Because to me, the best experiences are the ones I don't remember. If it stands out to me, then it's over the top. It's taken it too far. I'm being patronized in many ways. That's how it feels. It feels like I'm being like talked down to and being belittled. And so I prefer the ones where I don't remember. I prefer the ones where it's just simply, I can be independent, I can go about my time, I can have a great trip with whoever I'm traveling with at the time, and that's my favorite experience.
I love that.
Thank you.
I love it.
Okay, for me, I was in an airport. And you know, sometimes deaf people, you have to be really observant. You have to see what's happening around you. You're always looking. And you can always like notice if something's off or something's wrong. So I was in an airport and I noticed that people were behaving differently. I can't explain why, but just a little bit off, something. So I thought, I better go to the front desk. And it was Southwest Airlines. And so I walked up to the front desk and I was like, what's going on? So I had my laptop, opened it, typed out, hey, what's going on? And I turned it, and the woman said, oh, and she started typing like it was normal, just completely normal. There was no like awkwardness, no awkward response. She took her time, she wrote everything that was happening over a page she typed of what was going on. And then we were able to have that kind of back and forth. I was able to read, okay, now I'm familiar, the flight was delayed, they were having some problems with the airplane, that's why people were behaving oddly. And she looked at me and said, where are you sitting? I said, I'm sitting right over there. And she said, okay, I'm gonna come get you when it's ready for the flight. So I went over, sat down, waited. Again, I'm observant. She didn't forget, she was ready at the pre-board. She came and got me and said, okay, come on. And I was able to get on the flight smoothly. So it was easy and smooth. That was a good experience for me. Not a lot of people are like that, just like a deaf friendly, you don't find that a lot. And so I really applaud that person.
I love it.
One of my most favorite memories is actually, I was very happily on my honeymoon to Jamaica with my husband, and we had booked a bunch of different excursions, and I had chosen not to disclose my disability. So we went up to the Duns River where you could actually climb it. We went to the Blue Mountain where you could jump into the river from like a 15-foot drop. We went zip lining, tube rafting, and each and every single person just took it in their stride that I was blind. There were a few moments where as someone that has lived with blindness for some of my life, I know that sighted people do a thing where they talk with their eyes to each other. And I noticed that happening a couple times, but I didn't feel completely excluded because they were just communicating, okay, she's blind. Okay, we need to help her in any way we can. And so one of the most memorable parts of that was when I went up to the very top of the zip line, they were like, wow, you're amazing. You're coming on a zip line and you can't see? And I was like, yeah, because it's fun. And they were like, you are the best person ever. And they were just hyping me up like they were my hype girls. And it was the best thing ever because I'm so used to people being so awkward and so like almost untrustworthy of themselves to do the right thing that they then worry and put us both in predicament. So from start to finish on about 5 or 6 different excursions that we went on, I had an incredible experience all down to every single individual. And one of the other moments that I enjoyed was when I was at the Dundas River, because I am so petite, and at certain points it gets a little bit deep when you're climbing the rocks. The guys just lifted me up and plonked me on the next rock. And I was like, yes, I get the VIP treatment here. So yeah, that will forever stay in my memory, just how incredible Jamaicans are.
That's really incredible. I love that. One of our best experiences, I guess is more one of my daughter's best experiences, was a trip to Disneyland. And it was our first trip to Disneyland as a family. And at the time I had a 1-month-old baby and my daughter who was turning 4. And we were very nervous about Disneyland because there's lots of lines and crowds and noises and unpredictable things. But we tried to prep her and the way we did. And we got the disability access patch, which I understand is sort of now kind of under controversy. But at the time it was wait 8 hours on a webcast and then finally talk to someone and they give you one. So we did get one, which was extremely helpful. My daughter literally loses her mind in lines, like becomes a totally different person because she sees the ride and she can't go on it and she doesn't understand, and the impulse control is a really big thing for her. She also has Turner syndrome, so it's kind of related to that, kind of related to the autism. So not having to deal with her melting down in lines was huge because she also kicks and hits, so then I have to like awkwardly tell people, hey, you're gonna get hit in the face by a 3-year-old, please move. So we didn't have to do that. But the other thing that was actually really huge about the experience, in addition to the disability access pass, which I know now a lot of other attractions are doing, is they really train their staff. And so we waited for the princess experience, and she loves princesses, specifically Elsa, and we got to see 3 different princesses. And the first princess she saw, she just looked at her and said, you're not Elsa. And I thought that was gonna go really bad. But then the princess like really kind of picked up on her vibe, and my daughter was sort of like stimming and spinning, and Aurora like spun, like literally stood next to her and just kind of did this with her. And for those of you, I'm spinning around in a circle and she was kind of pretending to be a princess, and every single princess stimmed with her and didn't make us feel like freaks, which was really cool. That's never happened. And they all just they just kind of rolled with it, just like some of these other stories. So that was really incredible because you could tell the staff throughout the park was really well trained in kind of what stimming is and how to make people feel included. And my husband, who's this big Navy veteran, like actually cried. I'm the crier, as you guys can tell, but he cried at that experience. So that was our special experience. And the training down to the very customer service level was very evident at Disneyland.
I hope that what you're hearing from all of us is our best experiences.
One comment.
Yes.
So I just wanted to add something really fast. It was a really good experience. I have 5 kids, and I had just gotten off the plane. They had a wheelchair ready for me, like her experience. I'm just deaf, and my kids are like, what the hell are you doing? I just got in the wheelchair. I was like, hey, I'm gonna get a free ride. I just got in.
Sure, I'll take a free
I
ride.
sat and took it. Instead of walking, why not? I can't complain.
I love it. I think that's hilarious. Yeah, free ride, you might as well enjoy it. Now just you've got to do the beauty queen wave as you're going through the airport. It's fantastic. I had an experience where I was taking a tour in some properties, and the staff there were so accommodating. They were practically fighting over who was going to push my chair. I don't need somebody to push my chair. But it was part of their culture that's just what you do. And so everywhere we went, they would push my chair. And it was like, I felt like I was this royalty as we're going. It felt very silly, but also it was just such a sign to me of what that culture does, and that they were really trying to take care of me And I could have looked at it two ways. One, I could have said, no, I'm fiercely independent and I don't need this and this is ignoring my needs. Or I could look at it through their culture's eyes and think about the fact that they were trying to honor me and respect me and care for me as one of their own. And so that's what we turned it into. And it was so fun for the entire group. We all just made it this big joke. And I would sit there and we'd go in and I'd wave. And it was very silly and fun. But the one thing I really think is that I want you to take away, that we want you to take away, all of us just want to be included. We just want to be able to experience life. Life isn't just for those who can see. It's not just for those who can walk. It's not just for those who can talk. It is for all of us. And all of us want to be able to define how we live it. And when you work with us and you listen to what we have to say and you listen to our wants and needs and then act on those instead of the rule book, that is when we're included. And then that's when we feel just like everybody else. Anybody else have final thoughts to add before we move on to our next session?
So the deaf community is very small. And there's times when I have good experiences and bad experiences. We share them with each other, right? It spreads like wildfire, but good and bad. And so if I have a problem in Florida, I'll hear, if someone has a problem in Florida, even though I'm in Idaho, I'll hear about it tomorrow. It spreads really fast. Florida all the way to Los Angeles. In 24 hours, I'll end up hearing about it. So what I want to say is we tend to tell each other what is called deaf-friendly and what's not. So if we go to a hotel or we go to an airline, or specific restaurants, we say, they're deaf-friendly. We communicate that throughout the community so the deaf kind of know what are deaf-friendly businesses and things like that. There's a big difference.
Yeah, we're your biggest customer support, guys. We're your most loyal customers. If you do right by the disability community, we're going to be your biggest supporters, and we're going to tell everybody else because we've been in the pit, we know how dark it is, and we don't want to leave anybody else there. So when we find the way out, we're showing everybody else where to go. So if you want loyal customers who are going to bring more to you, cater to people with disabilities.
I would just add one thing.
I was just going to say, we're actually launching the first bank in U.S. history that is doing direct video calling. And my employees keep telling me, okay, what's the bank? I want to switch my account there because they're offering this service. And so all of our employees are already asking what the name of it is. So when we announce that and we say, hey, this bank is providing direct video support in sign language, no interpreters, no English, a lot of accounts are going to flock there, to exactly your point of what you were saying.
Amazing. Real quick, we've just got a few seconds.
Yeah, it's just a really quick one. Please answer your phone or answer your emails. All of us are different. All of our families have different needs. And sometimes, like my daughter's a sensory seeker, for example, she's not sensory sensitive. So I need to know, is there a fence around the property? Is she going to run away? She does run away. Things like that. I mean, we just need to know, and every person and family is different. So it is a spectrum for all. To your point earlier, it's just you don't know what the gap's going to be. So please help us help you. We do want to come. We do want to travel and have fun. It's just fun. Our families want to have fun like everyone else. But we do need a little assistance to figure out, is this the right fit? And I won't go if it's not. I don't want my family to have a bad experience, and that's also fine.
And here's a plug for two businesses that aren't here this year. Threshold 360 and AbleView both will help your destination make sure that information is on your website and that you're providing all that accessibility information that we need to have ahead of time to make that informed decision. So thank you all so much for being up here with us. We really appreciate it. This is my favorite hour, so thank you again.